Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Stephen King podcast. This is episode 38 and today we are going to talk about the new movie Big Driver, who hopefully most of you have seen. And we are going to talk about Haven. Episode 9 aired, today is Sunday, so it aired last Friday. When this airs, maybe episode 10 will have aired as well, but we are going to talk about episode 2 to 9, so make sure you have seen those before you listen.
Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
But first we're going to start with news, and this week we have some very interesting news.
Yes. All sort of sparked by the imminent release of Revival. But our first news item concerns Mercy. It's available on DVD apparently, and it was released on October 21st. If you're having trouble finding Mercy, it is out on DVD as well. So we'll be reviewing that in a later episode, but in the interim, you can maybe rent it from a Redbox or something like that. I don't think we're going to recommend that you buy it. That might be a kind of an early review, hey Hans?
Yeah. True, but early.
Yeah, but we don't want you to spend your money needlessly either. So it's a renter, short version for now.
Yep. Next news is, or the next upcoming news here is going to be about new books. First, I must say I was a bit surprised that a lot of news about upcoming stuff has been released now. And today it's just like 2 days until Revival is coming out, and I was very sure that they would wait with this kind of news until Revival was out and focus on Revival. But so I was a bit surprised, but it's fun. And the first news is about the second book in the series about Bill Hodges. The first one being Mr. Mercedes, and the second being Finders Keepers. And we know now that it will be released on June 2nd. Next year and be 448 pages long. So in King's case, a rather short book. Everybody else's a pretty long book. So it will be interesting to see where this one goes.
Absolutely. And in keeping with the book news, we also found out, and we knew that this had just been made common knowledge, I guess, in the last couple of weeks, but we had told that his other book next year would be a collection of short stories. And in our interview that you can find linked on Hans' site, in the Toronto Sun, it came out that he would be giving us about 20 stories, which is a lot. I can't think of 20 stories, to be honest, but that's awesome. And we also got the title of the book, which was kind of surprising this early. And it's called The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, which is a pretty awesome title, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a great title. It really gets you thinking. And one thing also that was mentioned in the message board on King's site is that of the 20 stories that will be included, none of them will be the collaborations he's done with Joe Hill and Stuart Onan, because they were collaborations.
Right.
I'm not really sure why that would prevent them to be in the book, but I guess maybe it's copyright issues or something like that. But so that's a few stories that at least I had thought would be included that won't be. So think of if there are 20 stories, there will definitely be some that we haven't heard about yet. So,
which is good.
Yeah, that's good.
And for us North American or English reading fans, I'm assuming that will include the English version of Bad Kid.
Yeah.
Which I have not read yet.
Yeah, I think that's been confirmed that it will be included.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was mentioned when it was released that
Yeah.
it would be in the next collection. But when they have been talking about the collection, they haven't confirmed any stories. So,
Right.
but I would guess that would be included.
Mm-hmm.
And the book will be released November 30.
Yep.
So that would give us approximately the same kind of deal that we got this year.
Mm-hmm.
One summer book and one fall book.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yes. Yep.
And continuing with, King has given a few interviews, 2 or 3 I think, about Revival being released. And as usual, he has throw in these small things that get us fans going.
Yeah. He's a
and one
master
of
at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's talking about something, and then it's just one sentence that poof
Yeah.
reveals something. And one of the things he revealed was that he is actually working with something on with something with Owen.
Mm-hmm.
He has done that before with Joe Hill, one of his sons, and this is his
Yep.
other son. We don't know what it is, if it's a book or a short story or a movie or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they are working on something, so that should be interesting to see, because I think those two are a lot more different in style and the kind of books they write than Joe and King. They are more the same.
Yeah.
So that could be interesting.
Yeah, I'm very curious as to what they're working on. If it's going to be something more grounded, or is like who's going to be bending here? Is it going to be the dad or the son?
Yeah.
like who's dipping into the other story pool more? That will be interesting to find out, because with Joe Hill, obviously their sensibilities are much more the same. So they've had an interesting collaboration. I enjoyed Full Throttle. I wasn't that crazy about the Tall Grass story, but it'll be interesting to see what does with his other son, Owen. I guess he's trying to spread the wealth around between his sons and not show favoritism.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the next one too, Hans?
Yes.
Because this one's a real surprise.
Yeah, and this was also just something he mentioned in an interview, and that is the fact that he's not done with Stu and Fran from The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
He feels that there is one more story to tell about them, and this is a short one, he says. And if that means a book and 200 pages or just a short story, we don't know. But it's not like The Stand. It's not very, very short.
Mm-hmm.
But as King say, there's one Stand story that still needs to be told, although it's not a long one. I happen to know that when Stu Redman and Franny Goldsmith headed back to New England with their baby, Franny fell into a dry well. That's all I know. I've had to write the story to find out what happens. So once again,
he just kind of throws that out there, eh? Like, just kind of like off his sleeve with no big fanfare or nothing. It's like, what? Another Stand story? What?
Yeah.
And he's never referenced talking. I don't think he's ever talked about revisiting The Stand anymore either. So
no, I don't think so.
No, so this is all in that same interview that's linked on Hans' site. It's from the Toronto Sun, and it's your Bizarre Bad Dreams entry from November 7th. So you can go to Hans' site and find the link to the Toronto Sun article there, because it's a good article to read, because, this stuff with Owen and The Stand comes out, as well as the next item that we're going to talk about is, and he's already talked about this a couple of times, so this is not really anything new. He wants to revisit the Dark Tower and rewrite it as one book, which I'd rather see him work on new stuff rather than try to re-edit this series. But given his work ethic, I guess it's not such a big deal for him to go back and make these 7 books more cohesive. But he also wants to include the story The Fall of Gilead, which has been covered in the comics now, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's a big missing piece, because we've never really found out the fate of all of his members of the original quartet. We're told about it, but we're never really shown it. And I think that is an important piece that's missing in the Dark Tower series. So I wouldn't mind that being written as another book for sure.
Yeah, and I feel kind of the same. I don't know. I think that when he rewrote the first book, that made quite a big difference, because those were really released like, it was 5 parts over a period of time, and were like separate stories, and he put them together as one, and also referenced a bit to the books coming after. So I think that was okay, but I don't really know or think that he has to do rewrites of the other books, because I think at least the last 3 he wrote like one book, if I understand it right. So I don't really see where I don't know what he's going to do with it, and my guess is that it will be probably more technical and maybe some kind of reference. I don't think it would change the story that much. So it would mostly be like rereading the same books again with small differences. So even though I like the Dark Tower books, I would prefer more that he wrote a new Dark Tower book and maybe other new books than redoing these 7.
I don't know. Maybe he's saving that as something to do if he runs out of story ideas. Which is okay, I guess. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and I forgot with the previous item about the stand, is I'm hoping that, because he says he needs to write the story to find out what happens, I'm hoping that he'll have that done for the short story collection for next year for the Bazaar of Bad Dreams, because I don't want to have to rebuy the stand, a new edition of the stand, just to get this extra short story included with it or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd much rather have it as part of the Bazaar of Bad Dreams.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, because I've already got 2 editions of the stand. I don't need a third one. They're both big, like I got the regular edition and the extended edition, so I don't want a third one that's just going to contain a 50-page short story or something like that.
Yeah, but I doubt that it will be included in the collection, because when you read the news about it, it seems like the stories have already been set, but they don't reveal them yet.
Yeah.
So it's possible that he could have said, like, leave room for a story, I will deliver it in 2 months.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
But I don't know. Knowing him, starting with a short story, it could very well turn out to be a entire book.
Maybe,
so,
yeah.
I don't know if the publishers are so willing to do that. I would suspect that they would like to have it all in once, but we don't know that yet. So
no, I think that would be a nice treat for all the fans. I mean, for the English fans, obviously getting the Big Driver story, or not Big Driver, but Bad Kid story, will be one reason. But I think for everybody, it would be awesome if there was this new Stan story as part of the collection. But we'll see. Because it does sound like a bad dream with Franny falling into a well. So
yeah, what else are you hoping for in the collection? Do you hope for poems or non-fiction stuff, or
poems? I'm not so crazy about poems and non-fiction. If he did some special pieces for it, but I think his best non-fiction stuff's already been written, which is his Dance Macabre book and his On Writing book. Those are the 2 best nonfiction pieces he's got right now. I mean, he's done a lot of columns and stuff like that, but they're more topical and current. So unless he's going to do some sort of extension of one of those original books, but I just all the short stories that he's done, and hopefully 1 or 2 new ones that we haven't read anywhere as well, because you do want something new as well to come with the book, which is why I'm hoping it's going to be the Stan story. And for me, the Bad Kid will be new as well. So that would work for me. He's done a lot of. It's been a long time since he's done a short story collection, right? Since After Sunset was novellas, really, not short stories.
Yeah.
So like you've got Night Shift, and then came after that. Geez, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there could be a lot of stories there that we're just forgetting because it's been a while since he's done a short story collection as well. So let's see, but
I'm counting here. I had a list of unpublished stories.
Oh, okay.
And I'm getting like 14, I think.
Okay.
If you include, it's like Morality, Premium Harmony, Herman Wook is Still Alive, Under the Weather, Mile 81, Little Green God of Agony, The Dune, Batman and Robin Have an Altercation, Afterlife, The Rock and Roll Dead Zone, Summer Thunder, and Bad Little Kid.
Okay.
So
was Gingerbread Girl? That was included in that other collection.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was one included. That I don't know if he thinks that and Mile 81, they are kind of books because they've released like ebooks and different separate audiobooks. So I don't know if that counts like a short story or if those are already like books. And then you have some older stories that hasn't been published in a Stephen King book yet. Both has been published in like magazines and stuff like that. Yeah. But I don't know how willing he is to publish something like that.
All right. Yeah.
So it would have to, if he's going to do like he says like 20 stories, there has to be a few new ones.
Right. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
I would
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
How about you? Is there anything in particular you want to see in the new collection? Or
No, not really. Like I don't want poems and non-fictions. I want real stories.
Mhm.
And I want, since I have actually read those who's been published in magazines and stuff like that, so I would like to have some new ones that I haven't read.
Right. Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
with the last one, I think there was only like one or two stories that I hadn't read before. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have them collected, but it would be fun to have a new story.
Yeah, I mean, again, as a fan, we can never get enough. But I mean,
Yeah.
next year with the second Mr. Mercedes novel, that's really another straight detective story. And as you just mentioned, this short story collection is going to be mostly stories that we've already read. So while I'm happy to get those two books, next year is not going to be as exciting for me story-wise because, this year we're getting Revival, which everybody's saying is his darkest work since like Pet Cemetery and stuff like that. So I'm happy that we're getting those two books next year. But next year, my excitement for Stephen King stuff is not going to be as high just because of the nature of the stuff that's being released. So
Yeah.
hopefully
Well,
he'll announce another book. I mean, it's terrible to say that, like the guy says, "Give me a break. I'm 67, so but
I'm giving you 2 books a year, and you want
yeah,
more.
you want more. So yeah, it's terrible. But it just in a quick comparison, this year has been a very good year. Last year was really good. Next year it'll be okay, but I think it's going to be a bit of a dip, which is really really being greedy when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of excited about the next Finders Keepers because
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed Mr. Mercedes, so I think this will
Good.
be a good book.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if he's going to keep playing it straight, or is he going to start introducing supernatural elements into that series? Probably not, but we'll have to see.
No, I'm hoping he won't, because even though I like the supernatural stuff, it's nice that he has other stuff as well, so you can get
Mm-hmm.
both of it.
Yeah.
I think it should stay with the path he's started now.
Yeah, I think there's one more thing that we should talk about, and I know we don't have it on our agenda, but you do have it up on your website. On a November 7th post, is Richard Chismar from Cemetery Dance is going to be doing a
Yeah.
reread of all the Stephen King books. So
Yes.
so that's exciting too.
Yes, and I'm kind of envy of him because I would
Mhm.
like to do that, and I have thought many times that I should, but I don't have the time to do it, and there's so much else to do and to read, and so. But it would be fun to start with the first book and read them all again.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I'm planning to do that when I retire. I'm gonna move to a warm place and sit by the pool,
Okay.
sipping drinks or beer
Sounds
and
nice. Yeah.
reading King.
Yeah. So just wanted to point that out to you guys. Check it out. If you go to Lily's site, you can get the article there. Richard Chismar is setting up a web page chronicling his reading. And my understanding is, and this might change or it might not, I know is that Bev Vincent, who we've had on the podcast as well, will be doing table setting articles between the books to set up where King was in his life at the time that the next book comes out, and that, and any other background information about the books themselves that we might not be aware of as fans. So that'll be a nice 1-2 combo, to get Richard's thoughts and to get Bev's context articles about it. So you can follow along over at the site that Richard set up for that. And yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I mean, he's about the third or fourth person I've seen doing this now. There's a guy over at BBC newspaper. He's doing it as well. And I think he's up into pretty far along now, though. He's about 3/4 of the way through the books. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head where he is. I want to say somewhere around Insomnia or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to read other people's thoughts about going through King's books. And I too have thought about redoing that. I felt proud enough that I was able to reread the Dark Tower series.
Yeah.
So to go through all of his books, that's tough because I just recently reread Insomnia, and for the podcast I just reread The Long Walk as well, which I hadn't read in ages, and I was surprised at how good that story is and how awesome of a movie it would make for today's world. So
and if you're
cool.
going to do it like they are writing about it, you have to do it in a controlled pace. So you can't just read like 3 books and then let a couple of months pass and then continue. You have to do it. And, I don't have that time, but it would be fun.
Yeah, especially with
there's
so
a
many
lot of books that you have read maybe 10 years ago, And you think you remember the books, but you only remember the big parts of it. And I bet there's a lot of stuff you would rediscover by reading them again.
Yeah,
So,
especially if there's been movie versions, they tend to blur your memory of what belongs to the book and what belongs to the movie. And The Shining is probably the best example of that, because that movie really blurs your memories of what the book is all about as well. So.
Yep.
And I just reread that for Dr. Sleep. So that was how we talked about that. And that was an interesting experience to see how my perspective or my interests changed as to what parts of the book were more interesting to me. So check out that podcast that we did earlier about the Dr. Sleep review, which includes our thoughts about The Shining as well.
Yep.
So
we have to reread Mr. Mercedes for next summer when the second part comes.
Yeah. Fortunately, that's a fairly quick read, so that's not so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the news.
Yes.
This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around, pick up stiffs or what?
It's time for reviews from the night shift.
Okay, it's time to review yet another new Stephen King movie that aired on Lifetime earlier this year. And this one is called Big Driver, and is based on a short story with the same title. This one is about a writer, no surprise there, called Tess Thorne, who is writing a series of books about older ladies who are like detective, the Knitting Society, they call themselves, and they solve crimes. And it gets you to think about the TV show Murder, She Wrote. But they are more old ladies in her books. Anyhow, she do a few readings and speeches in front of people. And when we get to this movie, she's about to go on doing one of these readings. And on her way home, she gets a flat tire after running over some boards with nails in them. She thinks she's saved when a big guy in a truck stops. Actually, it turns out to be the total difference, and he rapes her and beats her and leaves her for dead. But she survives, and she takes revenge on him. Well, that's basically the plot of the movie. And personally, I enjoy this one really a lot. Both because I think the story in itself is very good, and because it follows the story very, very well. Surprisingly well, actually, I think. I was a bit surprised that it's a very graphical story, and they showed it. They show more than I thought they would in the movie, since it's done for TV. But they did it in a good way. They didn't. It wasn't like those movies where they really want to show you all the gore. They showed us just enough so that we could relate to what Tess was being put through, but they didn't overdo it. So I think they handle it very good. So I like this one. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I'm along the lines with you in your reaction to this one in terms of how well the movies followed the story. And it's very interesting to compare this one to A Good Marriage, which had a pretty big pedigree as well. Stephen King writing the short story, and had a really good cast. And this one has a very solid cast as well.
Yeah.
Maria Bello, who plays the lead character, Tess Thorne, she's fantastic in this one. And the interesting thing for me is that Joan Allen was just as strong with her portrayal. But I think what the difference that comes down to between the two of these movies is in the direction. This one is really well staged. I mean, there's shots where when her car breaks down and she pulls into that gas station, right then I knew that this director knew what he was doing because he would do shots through the inside of that abandoned gas station, looking through the windows and that even if there wasn't anybody there, it already gets you feeling tense that something bad is going to happen, which was totally missing from A Good Marriage. So this director, Michael Salomon, who is a Danish director, he has done some other Stephen King work. Actually, he did From Nightmares and Dreamscapes miniseries. He did Autopsy Room 4 and The End of the Whole Mess. So he does have some grounding in this type of work. And he also did the Andromeda Strain miniseries that was on a couple of years ago, and Falling Skies. And if you look at his biography, you can find a whole bunch of other things there as well. So he's got some experience here. He was also a cinematographer on other movies like The Abyss and that. So this guy's got some good credentials under his belt. And it's interesting that also for this Big Driver adaptation, the name Richard Christian Matheson is a name that anybody that's into genre TV and books will know that name from the Twilight Zone and Omega Man, and what was the story with the soldiers in Nightmare and Dreamscapes?
Battleground,
which again is the same person here. The thing that we have to remember is that we're talking about his son, who goes by the same name except Junior. So it's apparent from that Battleground episode and this movie that he has inherited his father's ability to adapt written material to work well on the screen. Because with the exception of maybe one scene that we'll talk about under things that I didn't understand or like, this was a really well constructed script, and it really worked well. It used the things that work well with a movie to the full advantage. And I'm thinking particularly of the talking GPS and the one character from the fictional detective group that was played by Olympia Dukakis that provided an inner dialogue for the viewers as into what Tess was thinking about. So do you agree about how they use those things, Hans?
Yeah, I agree, and that was really only the big difference from the story and the movie, that the character that she wrote about gets more time in the movie, and while the GPS gets more time in the story as she talked to them. But I think it's a great way to get her talking instead of just thinking stuff. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, the thing that was, as you said, the rape scenes were well done in that. It's in this day and age, I'm a little and maybe I just because I'm getting older, I'm a little more and more uncomfortable with this type of story device being used to drive the story. I mean, for a guy, if it was a male writer, they probably would have had him beaten to death and his family killed or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I don't know. I'm a little uncomfortable with using rape as the device for propelling this writer to do the thing that they do. But taking that into account, I do agree with you. I thought they filmed it as I think they showed the proper taste and restraint and not making it too graphical, but also at the same time getting across the terror and the horror that the character was going through, and how traumatized she was by that experience. So I thought they did a good job of that. And I also liked how they spent more time exploring the aftermath of it than the actual process of it, because, they would just show how terrible she looked. And she was really bloodied up pretty good. And that whole sequence when she was crawling out of the drain pipe, that was really well done as well, I thought.
Yeah, and I like the fact that when she takes her revenge, she does it in a believable way.
Yeah,
it's not like in many of those kind of movies, the guy or girl who gets the revenge all of a sudden gets like a Rambo character with guns, and they all of a sudden can rig explosives, and they can beat anybody to death and stuff like that. Here it was, even though some of it might have been a bit exaggerated, it wasn't that exaggerating. It was just her and her gun and knife, and you could believe that she could actually do this, and so I like that one as well. She got her revenge, but it wasn't as exaggerated as it often is in these kind of movies.
And they left you wondering too whether she was actually going to be able to pull it off, because it was interesting to see her talking about it to herself, and with either the GPS and the Doreen character. She's obviously a very intelligent person, and she's got this all kind of worked out, but during the actual execution of these executions, I guess you could say, it was kind of sloppy, and she almost didn't pull it off, especially with the mother. I don't think she had it planned that it would go that way, but not having that bullet in the first round was, I don't know. I thought that, okay, I guess I'll go along with it, but it just felt kind of sloppy that she would let herself lose the gun to begin with. But
but that also made her not being this super person.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Yeah, but when she thought for a while there that she had killed an innocent person, I thought that was well done because that whole sequence where she's wandering around the yard, like she's got that flashlight on. I kept on saying to my wife, I was watching with my wife, says, "Turn that flashlight off. He's gonna see you," like.
Yeah.
So, so that was well done, and it was really interesting to get inside her head as she was trying putting the pieces together. Because I don't think a lot of people would have even clued into the fact that the mother had set her up in the first place, right? So,
Yeah.
and I liked how they used the technology to aid the story, even though they did have to pull out that chestnut about not having any cell phone reception,
Yeah.
area where she broke down. But that's just something that you have to go along with because without it, there's no story.
I guess that's what as you say, they have to do that now that you practically can get in touch with anybody, anytime, anywhere. So
Yeah.
a lot of stories wouldn't be able to pull it off if they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of those things you just have to accept. So
Yeah.
this is not the only movie or story I've seen where this is an issue that the storytellers can't seem to get work around without coming up with this, oh, there must be no reception or something like that. Because,
Yeah.
that's just one of those things that in this day and age, you just have to accept. But beyond that, I really like the use of the GPS talking to it.
Yeah. Yep.
It was kind of like Hal from 2001 or something like that. But it allowed us to get into her head and see like what the doubts that she was having during the fact that she stopped at that brother's place to begin with, and the GPS says, "Oh, now we're going to go to the right address,"
Yeah.
stuff like that. So that was really
Yeah.
well done. And boy, that Will Harris, the guy that played Lester, the rapist, he was a big
Yeah.
dude. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Now I don't know if they put him. I don't know if it was camera angles because when he stepped out of that truck, it was like Tess said, he wore the truck instead of drove it.
Yeah.
Which was a great line.
Yep. And I really liked him, and I thought he was a little bit overlooked when they, like on the poster, he isn't even mentioned
Yeah.
by name. So I think he deserved more than he got.
Yeah, Will Harris is the actor's name. I quickly check on his biography here to see if I've seen him in anything else. He's been in Law and Order, NCIS. So I guess he's Friday Night Lights. He's been around. He's done a couple of things, but he seems like like obviously this is not a role that you want to go trumpeting around that this guy's a great actor or anything. But for the part that he had, I thought he did a really good job. And
yeah, I think so.
I actually thought he was pretty good. I wasn't that as crazy about the mother. I can't remember who played that.
And Down.
Okay. And Dowd, yeah.
Dowd.
She was okay. I wasn't too crazy about her character, but
no,
seemed a little. But then that was the kind of the part she was playing too, right? Like especially when they first met, she was so overly bubbly that it was kind of annoying.
I actually liked those parts better when she was this annoying, or at least we thought this annoying fan who was really excited to meet her favorite
writer.
Yeah. So I liked those parts, but then, well, she was okay. It wasn't any disaster, but maybe not the best actress.
It was funny when she had turned the tables on Tess, and then she says, "And you're a terrible writer." And that was the thing that bothered Tess the most out of anything that she said.
Yep.
So that was probably the funniest moment in the movie, I think.
Yep.
Anyhow, for me, but yeah, it was a really well done movie.
Yep.
And it was an interesting look into a writer's mindset, and I liked how, almost like in the way that I think that Stephen King's Accident changed his writing, you're left with the impression that at the end of this movie, her detective series is going to become a lot more grittier and amp up the drama in the stories based on what she was writing with that new page for her new book.
Yeah.
So,
and we got to see Joan Jett.
Yeah, she was okay.
Yeah.
the eye thing was interesting.
Yep.
And it led to a very abrupt end to the movie, though. Didn't you find that? That was kind of weird.
Yeah. And I don't know if why she were there really. Is she an actress now, or did they just pull her in because she's a name?
I think they probably just pulled her in because she's a name. Maybe she.
Yeah.
I don't know if she lent something to the soundtrack or something. I don't know, but.
No.
Yeah.
Because she's on the poster while
Yeah.
Will Harris is not. So I think that I don't know if that's
It's part of a
really
name recognition
reflecting.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was interesting on several levels, but the whole lifestyle of that mid-list writers live too, like driving around trying to promote their book and stuff like that. If as somebody who likes to write, I find that kind of stuff interesting, but I don't know, for a regular viewer who's just more into watching mysteries and that and not really caring about writing, they probably didn't really care about that part of the movie. But I found that stuff interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think overall it's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised. I thought I didn't have these high thoughts about it
Yeah.
before, both because it's done for TV and I think it was done pretty fast,
Mm-hmm.
and I did think they would have to cut a lot of the gorier stuff out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they did a great job with it, so
Yeah.
this is definitely one that I could recommend people to check out.
There was only one scene that I just really didn't understand that was in there, is when she's outside the gas station waiting for the truck to pull in, and then that cop shows up.
Yeah.
And that was where they're just trying to add this tension of, ooh, now the police know that she's around. So because you would think after all of this happened, they would be twigged onto the fact that, well, this person was acting kind of weird. And it also made me think, why would she go ahead with what she has planned to do? Because now the cops know that she's there, that she would probably be scared off and go back home and do it another night or something like that. But
Yeah.
So that scene, it never came back later on in the movie either. It's like the cop never showed up again. So why did they put that in there? Was it just to make us think that, oh, she's not going to go through with it now? That's the only thing I can think of, but it seemed like an unnecessary scene to me. I didn't understand that one at all.
Yeah. I didn't really reflect on that when I saw it, but now that you mention it, I didn't really understand it either. Maybe they just wanted to show that she was a normal person that did this anyway and didn't think about she was had been seen by the police or something.
Yeah. The other thing that was kind of weird too is when she finally worked the courage to go up into that store, and she's on the phone, and nobody's saying like, can I get you an ambulance or anything like that? Like, she's like totally messed up, right? Like it's just the people are just walking around her and looking at her like she's kind of weird. And I don't know, I guess it's a rough neighborhood, maybe. I don't know. People don't want to get involved, but yeah. So that, and then I kind of touched a little bit on like being a semi-celebrity, and we've seen this with Stephen King when he makes statements that if a normal person makes, nobody pays any attention to. But if there's anything slightly offbeat with it, there's people out there just ready to pounce on them and cut them up and take cheap shots at celebrities. And she was going through that whole thought process in her mind as well as to why she was going to do it on her own instead of going to the cops. So that was kind of interesting too.
Yeah, and I think maybe it was done like from her perspective, that she thought that everybody was looking at her, and maybe they didn't really notice her as much as.
Well, she was pretty messed up though.
Yeah, but she.
It's not like she just had like a torn shirt or something. Like she had blood all over in her hair and her face. And her clothes were torn, so it was kind of like, yeah, really, nobody's going to say anything. But I don't know. I guess that's that neighborhood for you. I don't know.
Yeah, that's normal day here in Sweden. No.
Is it? Oh, okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
So. And the last thing I'll say about this, because I really enjoyed it quite a bit, it's one of those what if games. And I just sat there thinking to myself, what if this guy directed A Good Marriage too? How much of a difference would it have made? I don't know, but I suspect that I would have liked that movie a lot more if this was the director for that one as well.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he knew how to stage shots. He made tense, he made you tense when there was no dialogue or anything. And she's wandering around that house and hearing that printer printing off those photographs and stuff. And some of the camera angles when Tessa's driving her car. And as I already mentioned, the stuff with realizing that there was flash photography going off during the rape sequences, and you didn't know what that was about at first. And then later on you find out it's when pictures are being taken. So yeah, it was just really well directed. And it shows you how much of a difference a good director can make.
Yeah, definitely. And since these two movies were released so close, you can really see the difference.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's 2 out of our 3 movies that were released around this time. We've got one left, which is Mercy, that we mentioned briefly in the news. So that one we'll be talking about, I guess, in our next podcast. And
Yeah, the next one or the one after that. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll probably dedicate the next one to Revival only.
yeah.
But yeah, I put this down as a very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, same
And
here.
Olympia Dukakis as Doreen was also able to deliver some nice laughs as well. So
Yeah.
which is great because you need to mix it up a little bit. If it's all tension all the time and no laughs, then the viewer gets fatigued. But this one had some nice funny moments mixed in with all the stuff that was going on as well. So I thought that was really well done as well.
Yeah, well balanced.
Yeah, well, nicely paced movie. Okay, so that is our discussion on Big Driver. Now we're going to move over to Haven.
Yes.
And I'll just lead off quickly by recapping where my mindset was at the end of the first episode. And I was not impressed with the initial episode. If you remember us talking about it, maybe that was some Under the Dome spillover. I don't know. But there was a lot of, I thought, hokey, unexplained things going on to set up the season. So I was worried about where season 5 was going. And your thoughts on the first episode were a little bit different than mine, I think, Hans.
Yeah, I think I was a bit more positive than you were on it. So, and I must mention just before we start talking about this, I got the season 4 DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And in there's this comic, like it was with this season 3.
Right.
And if you read that, it gives you a little backstory to where's season 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows Mara and William, who is, I don't know, but they are definitely not, I don't think they're from Earth.
Okay.
It isn't said, but they are talking about humans maybe like we are talking about bugs.
Yeah, she's
So
done that
they-
during the season as well.
Yeah, and they are coming to this village that's, it's actually Haven, but many years earlier than
Yeah,
the
like
TV show.
pilgrims or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she, it seems like she and William has gone there without permission, and they are starting to, they give this boy like a spotlight on him, and if anyone else runs into that spotlight, they turns into a skeleton. Their whole body burns up.
Wow.
And William is actually trying to make her leave, and saying that if we leave now, we can get back and nobody will notice that we've been here.
Right.
So they are definitely not meant to be there. But 3 other, it looks like, people arrive and arrest them, kind of. And William is sentenced to live in the barn, and Mara is sentenced to relive her life on this place that becomes Haven again and again and again, to live among those who she has given these problems.
Right.
And I actually think that the main character who is coming there to give them this sentence is Agent Howard.
Oh,
or
okay.
The person who is looking like Agent Howard. Then it ends with Agent Howard and Mara being in the barn, and he is sentence her to Haven. She's dressed like a nurse, and he says, next time we see each other, you won't remember me. Goodbye, Sarah. So I guess that's when he sends her back as Sarah. So from this we know that Mara is sent back in different characters as punishment for what she did.
Right.
So what she did isn't sanctuary from someone else. It's actually something she did that she wasn't supposed to do.
Right.
And her sentence is to live again and again and again in Haven. But I can't help to think that the punishment is somewhat missing, because if they remove her memory and she has to live among them, the troubled, she won't remember that she has done this, and she won't suffer as much.
Right.
So I don't really know why they should make her remember it, so she would really suffer and having to be there. Now it's just like, I don't know. So, but that seems to be the setup for season 5.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Interesting knowledge to have. And is that considered canon, part of the show, or is that just like a optional? Because that changes some of my thoughts about where this season has gone.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I would suppose that this will have effect on the TV show, since it's included in the season 4 DVD set.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
And as far as I know, you can't get it. You can't just get this comic because it's just a little, like a pamphlet maybe with a few pages in it.
Okay.
and I don't think you can buy it. So
Hmm.
I would definitely think that it's connected to the TV series.
Okay, that's interesting. So, with all of that, what
Yep.
did you think of the next 8 episodes of Haven?
Well, I think I'm a little torn. I think the show is definitely watchable. I watched all these 8 episodes in like maybe 3 or 4 days,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a good way to watch this show, to view quite a few episodes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the weekly troubles, especially the one where Nathan thought he was dead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought
I
you were going
like
to say
that
the
one.
one where the Edge switched bodies with the coroner.
Yes, that's my second most favorite. So those two were definitely the best one. I did have some problems with the whole Mara thing, as they kept her chained to a chair and stuff. And maybe they are coming to something in the last episodes, but I would think that if she's so powerful that she can give people curses, and she's from if this other planet or this other universe or whatever, she would definitely be able to break a chain
Yeah.
and just get up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I really I didn't buy that she was captured by them. And maybe it will show in later episodes that she stayed because she wanted to stay,
Right.
because she had some grand plan
Mm-hmm.
by doing so.
Yeah.
But if she's forced to stay and she really doesn't want to stay, then that's definitely a trouble of mine.
Okay.
Because I didn't buy, if she was so powerful, she would have been able to leave anyway.
Right. Yeah. I'm just trying to reprocess what you've told me with that comic book, because especially the last couple episodes when Mara's tormenting Audrey with the fact that she's just like the wrapper and that Mara is really the candy.
Yeah.
That comic book lends credence to those statements. And I have to say, beyond the first episode, like you, I really enjoyed the rest of the season. I think it's probably up there with the best that the show's ever been, because there was such a relentless pace to it that pushed everything. Like there was always something going on. And at least based on what they had set up in the first episode of the season, which I still have a lot of trouble with, they took full advantage of the situations that arose from that to explore the characters. And I think for Emily Rose, this is probably her best season, because she got to play like a Joker version of her character. The one that doesn't care about anything and doesn't care about the rules, and so she can do whatever crazy thing she wants. And she was taking a lot of great pot shots at Nathan and Duke, and she did some pretty terrible things to some of the people.
Yeah.
From that perspective, this season has really been like a lot of dramatic meat for her. She's been afforded the opportunity to really let rip, and I think that Emily Rose, who I think we mentioned last season, who's probably improved the most out of the regular cast. I think she's continued this season to elevate her acting to another level. You know, the creators of the show gave her an opportunity to play like a darker version of her character, and she's really taken advantage of it. And at the same time, they gave Nathan something to do besides just pining for Audrey all season long, especially when they turned him into a ghost. So that was good to see as well. Duke has been a little more subdued this year, and like you've had troubles with Mara being so easily tied up. I had troubles with Duke being allowed to stay alive. You know, like if he's got all the troubles, why don't you just kill him?
Yeah.
And get it over with? So.
But he doesn't have all the troubles. He just have the troubles that his family has.
Yes.
Removed, so there will still be troubles.
Which are enough.
Yeah.
Right. So there is that tension of the fact that, you know, like Nathan and Duke are being so selfish about wanting to protect Audrey that they're willing to sacrifice all these other innocent people, which I don't think the show is totally justified properly. I don't think they can, but it is an interesting point that the characters are going this far. And overall, Duke has been in the back seat, except for the last 2 episodes where now we're seeing that Mara's points about the town turning against her and him are starting to come true, which I think is going to set up for the season finale that Duke is going to free Mara, and they're going to try to, I don't know what they're going to try to do something so that you've got this whole situation with Nathan and Audrey going head to head against Duke and Mara, which is interesting because Audrey has no powers anymore at all. She can't even solve troubles anymore. So,
No.
so that's interesting as well. And the whole Mara's digging into Duke as to why he split her like that is interesting as well. But it's kind of creepy to see the two of them together now because you can start to see that Duke is falling under her spell, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
and,
becoming a new William maybe.
Yeah, becoming the next William, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's creepy watching the two of them together. So you could potentially have two couples with
Yeah.
with these two guys, which is interesting. So I really enjoyed how they've taken advantage of this. The show's taken advantage of this situation to allow these characters to go through these different journeys, and I from that perspective, I really enjoyed this season quite a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as you, and I think if, as we have speculated, that season 6 that we know season 6 are coming, and if it's in fact the last season, as you and I have speculated some about, I think it would be a great setup if you have Nate and Audrey on one side and Duke and Mara on the other, and they go head to head. Because if that was a setup and that was for the last season, they wouldn't have. I mean, if that would happen in season 3, we would have known that the good guys would have won.
Right.
But if they're setting it up for the last season and a big battle, it doesn't necessarily have to be the good guys that win. It could end up with Mara standing there being happy and it all starts over again. So I think that would be a setup that would both be a good one and one that wouldn't be so easy to predict how it would end. So I think that would be a great one. I did have one problem scene with Duke this episodes though, and that was when he was going to talk about his mother,
right,
to get her to help, and he had to get drunk before it, and they were sitting there like two old buddies, drinking whiskey, and he didn't really seem that drunk either after when he started to talk, and I don't know how he maybe he can take his liquor better than me, but I know if I drank half a bottle of whiskey, I wouldn't be able to talk at all. So I don't know. I thought that scene was a bit, I don't know. It would have been better if he would have broken down and cried and when he talked about it, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, for the amount of drinking he did, what he told, like, I mean, it was a terrible story, but it didn't seem to justify him getting to the state where he was. I mean, the ending at the end when his mother basically offered herself to him so she could get some drugs. That was a powerful moment. And you would have thought he would have showed some more emotion there. And I would have thought Mara would have made fun of him or something like that. But but she was pretty quiet. So that was an interesting sequence. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Like if his mother shows up later in the show, that's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But based on what he told, she's probably dead now by.
You would think, but
but you never know.
That's too big of a dramatic opportunity for the show not to bring her in at some point. So
yeah,
I was really surprised at how much involvement The Edge had in this season.
Yes,
he's pretty well. At some times, he's almost like the third most important character, if not the most important character in the show.
Yeah,
because he's the sheriff and now he's the head of the guard. So, and he's done a good job. He's really stepped into this role and done a great job this season.
Yeah, I think so. I think he should definitely be. They should be the 4 main character now, and he should be included. And I've liked him from the beginning, as you know.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with this, and I really love the season when this episode when he changed body with a corner. I think that was really hilarious.
Yeah,
she was really happy about the body, and
yeah, he says I could punch through walls with this, and he's eating all that food, and that was funny. That was well done, and so that was great to see. And the show has also had a lot of really not like big name, but fairly recognizable guest stars. Like there's been actors from Covert Affairs, even though his part really wasn't that much because he was the guy that the ghost turned into the ghost and was killed later on. And I thought that he would have made a good leader or antagonist for for the Edge as the spokespersons for the Guard. Even though they have another character doing that, I thought he would have been a good character for that. They also had the girl from she's been on Hannibal, is Freddie Lounds.
Yeah.
And she was good. And the guy from the Dark Side Seekers or whatever, like the Ghost Hunter guy, was back again.
Yeah.
And I thought that he might end up with that girl, with Freddie Lounds.
Yeah, the photographer.
Yeah, the photographer at the end of the episode,
Yeah.
but they just kind of looked at each other and walked away from each other. Maybe there was a deleted scene there and they decided to drop it. I don't know, but I almost thought he might end up with her. So that was kind of interesting as well.
And I think that felt more controllable this time.
Yeah.
It was a bit flamsy when they were two that last time we saw them.
Yeah.
So I liked it better this episode.
Yeah.
Where it was more controlled and not so over the top. So
yeah.
I think that was a good addition.
Mm-hmm. I found it weird that when Nathan disappeared, that Duke and Audrey were very nonchalant about it. Like they for all they knew he was dead, and it was just, oh, he's disappeared or whatever. Like they just didn't react at all hardly. Like especially Audrey, she was just, oh yeah. So.
But yeah, maybe that was Mara talking more.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Audrey didn't have much time then, did she?
No.
And I don't know, maybe they were so used to all the troubles that they really didn't think he was dead.
Maybe. It was, I don't know. I just found it felt like there was a scene missing there to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that at the beginning when Nathan is very much trying to get Audrey out of Mara, first I thought they took it too far. I think when he ran away with her and everything, after knowing what Mara could do and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It did feel a little bit too much that he would sacrifice all that.
Yeah.
But the payoff came later when he was right about she being in there, and
yeah.
So I think they saved that pretty good later. But as it happened, I felt that it was a bit too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I definitely was more on the side of the Guard than I was with Nathan.
Yeah. I think he
with the Edge,
it didn't feel like a normal reaction from Nathan. But I think since it played out as it did, it didn't bother me so much. But as I watched it, I had some problems with it.
Yeah. So because I thought like Dwight had the best. He was the most clear-thinking person during that whole sequence. Like he was right. Nathan and Duke, they were being selfish, and even though they kept on saying that, well, if we can get Audrey, then we can cure the troubles. It just didn't seem like worth the risk for the people that were being hurt while they were trying to do that. So that was that was a little iffy for me as well. What did you think of the Vince and Dave storyline?
Yeah, well, those guys. I don't know. I'm going between want to laugh with them and I want to punch them in the face. They are still keeping these secrets from each other, and I mean all. The entire town is going to hell, and they are still keeping secrets.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were for real, they would put everything out. They would get Nathan and Duke and together, and they would share everything they know, and they would try to solve this. And instead, they are doing it on their own, and they are having secrets from each other. So that feels a little bit wrong. I don't think that would be. They are so far, and so much is at stake at this point. So I don't really buy that they are keeping secrets from each other. And at the same time, it's very interesting to see. Apparently, Dave is adopted from what I'm taking it the same place where Mara came from. So maybe he will be playing a big part in solving this mystery, because he might be the good version of her, or I don't know, but he might have more powers than he knows, since they are from the same place.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. It could be good. It could be disaster, as it is now, I think.
Yeah, I'm wondering about. He keeps having these flashbacks to this colony. It looks like of the original people. So I don't know if he's another being like Mara and William. And that scab that he has on his leg is interesting as well. I don't know what that's all about. And plus, we have this figure that's lurking around at the edges, hurting people as well, that we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what that's all about as well. This missing time that they've experienced during when they were opening the portal at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So there's some other things going on there, but in general, I have to say I enjoyed their their story this season because it seemed to be tied into what's going on with the main storyline, which is good. And I did enjoy that when they switched bodies. The guy was not used to being in the taller body, kept on hitting his head on things and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That was good. So
it would be fun if it turns out that Dave is really this smoke that we see. So he's really badass, and it would be fun if he just has amnesia or something and thinks he's a good guy from Haven, and instead he's like this evil, torturing. Ghost.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So at this point, we're up to episode 9, which was called Morbidity. And the thing that they've always been worried about is the outside world finding out. And now we've got this scientist from the CDC has come in, and she was a character on Alphas. So it's kind of interesting to see her again. And how many more episodes do we have this season?
4.
4. So it'll be interesting to see, based on what they're done with Duke and Mara, I have a feeling that there's going to be some sort of cliffhanger with them breaking away from. He's going to release her from the boat, and I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to try to do something, obviously. Maybe they're going to leave Haven. I don't know, but or she's going to get Duke help her find the portal, or maybe they're going to head towards that thingy that's in. Is it North Carolina? I think. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe that's where they're going to be heading. So, definitely. When I was watching the episodes, like you, I watched them over a period of a couple of days, and it wasn't a chore. I was actually interested to find out what was going in the next episode. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. I actually really enjoyed this season quite a bit.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the pacing, the humor, the mysteries, and the troubles were interesting as well. So it's been a really good season after what I thought was a very poor start. But I don't know where they're going, which is good.
Yeah. I think they should have done more with the fact that they thought Nathan was dead and living in this other dimension and being invisible to the rest of the group.
It was underplayed. Yep.
Yeah, I think they could have spanned that like for maybe 2 or 3 episodes and could have developed character on that side as well. And I think they could have used that more because I really enjoy that trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely think it will end with a cliffhanger since we know there will be a 6th season.
Yeah.
So I would be very surprised if it wasn't a cliffhanger and that they would continue it over in season 6.
Yeah, it's weird that they keep referring to those next batch of episodes as the second half of season 5, but to me it's season 6. I don't know why they keep saying it's the second part of season 5, but color me surprised. I really enjoyed this season. I'm really enjoying this season, and it's been a lot of fun watching. And I think that for Emily Rose, it's been a real gift for her to get her character at this point. So she's taken advantage of it. And I also think that Adam Copeland as Dwight has really stepped up and done a great job as the sheriff and now the head of the guard. So Nathan and Duke have been covering the same ground a little bit again, but overall it's been an entertaining season.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they are stepping back a little, Nathan and Duke, are giving Audrey and Dwight some room to play. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good thing as well.
So there you go. That's our thoughts on Haven. Well worth watching this season.
Definitely.
Alrighty. So we come to the end. We come to the end of the podcast. Wow. Hour and a half.
Yep.
Ooh.
Whoops.
Lots of talking. That's good.
Yep.
So by the time you get this podcast, folks, it'll be mid-November, which means that you should all be busy doing what, Hans?
Reading Revival.
That's right.
Yes.
Which
today it's Sunday and it's released in 2 days.
Yep.
November 11th.
So some stores have broken street date, apparently.
Yeah, yep. Some stores have started selling it already. And in Sweden it's actually out on Wednesday, the day after the US release. So that's exciting for us. We have never had a book released so close into US release. So that's good.
Awesome.
Yeah. So get that reading and we will talk more about that in the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
And until that time, stay safe.
But
stay scared.